US-Russia summit in Alaska has definitely been productive. US side has received Russian side very well. There were lots of issues that we discussed and many we agreed. Some of them are to be agreed. And definitely it's very important that President Trump outline a significant economic potential of cooperation between US and Russia, and will continue building US-Russia relations going forward, despite lots of the resistance to this, but will continue strengthening US-Russia ties.
Dear Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, our talks were held in a constructive and mutually respectful atmosphere and were very thorough and useful. I would like to thank my American colleague once again for the invitation to come to Alaska. It is quite logical to meet here because our countries, although we are separated by oceans, are actually close neighbors. And when we met and got off the planes, I said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor, it's very nice to see you in good health and alive." And this sounds really neighborly, in my opinion. Kind and friendly. We are separated only by the Bering Strait. And even then, there are two islands. Between the Russian and American islands there are only 4 kilometers. We are close neighbors, this is a fact. It is important that a significant part of the common history of Russia and the US and many positive events are associated with Alaska. To this day, the huge cultural heritage of the era of Russian America is preserved here. Orthodox churches, more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. During World War II, it was in Alaska that the legendary airline for the supply of combat aircraft and other equipment under the Lend-Lease Treaty began. It was a dangerous, difficult route over vast icy spaces, but the pilots and specialists of the two countries did everything to bring victory closer, took risks, gave their lives for a common victory. I have just been to the city of Magadan in Russia, where there is a monument to Russian and American pilots and a flag on the monument, Russian and American. I know that there is a similar monument here too. In a military cemetery just a few kilometers from here, Soviet pilots who died while carrying out that heroic mission are buried. We are grateful to the American authorities and citizens for their respectful attitude towards their memory. It looks dignified and noble. We will always remember other historical examples when our countries together smashed common enemies in the spirit of comradeship and alliance, provided each other with help and support. I am sure that this legacy will help us restore and build mutually beneficial and equal ties at a new stage, even in the most difficult conditions. As you know, top-level Russian-American meetings have not been held for more than 4 years. This is a long time. The past period was very difficult for bilateral relations. And, let's be honest, they have sunk to the lowest point since the Cold War. And this does not benefit either our countries and the world in general. Obviously, sooner or later it was necessary to rectify the situation, to move from confrontation to dialogue. And a personal meeting of the heads of the two states is really overdue. Of course, under serious and painstaking preparation. Such work has generally been done. President Trump and I have established very good direct contacts. We have repeatedly and frankly talked on the phone. As you know, the special representative of the President of the US, Mr. Witkoff, came to Russia several times. Our aides and foreign ministers were in regular contact. As you well know, the situation around Ukraine has become one of the central issues. We see the desire of the US administration and President Trump personally to contribute to the resolution of the Ukrainian conflict. His desire to delve into the essence and understand its origins. I've repeatedly stated that Russia sees Ukraine's events as fundamental national security threats. Moreover, we have always considered and continue to consider the Ukrainian people as brothers, no matter how strange that may sound in today's circumstances. We have the same roots, and everything that happens for us is a tragedy and severe pain. Therefore, our country is sincerely interested in putting an end to this. At the same time, we are convinced that for the Ukrainian settlement to be sustainable and long-term, all the root causes of the crisis, which have been repeatedly discussed, must be addressed. Ensuring the consideration of all of Russia's legitimate concerns, restoring a fair balance of security in Europe and in the world. I agree with President Trump, he said this today, that the security of Ukraine must certainly be ensured. Of course, we are ready to work on this. I would like to hope that the understandings we have reached will bring us closer to that goal and open the way to peace in Ukraine. We hope that Kiev and European capitals will perceive all this in a constructive manner and will not create any obstacles. That they will not attempt to disrupt the emerging progress through provocations or behind-the-scenes intrigues. By the way, with the new US administration, bilateral trade has started to increase. All this is symbolic for now, but still plus 20%. I am talking about the fact that we have many interesting areas for joint work. It is obvious that the Russian-American business and investment partnership has huge potential. Russia and the United States have a lot to offer each other in trade, energy, digital, high technology and space exploration. Cooperation in the Arctic, the resumption of interregional contacts, including between our Far East and the American West Coast, are also seen as relevant. In general, it is important and necessary for our countries to turn the page and return to cooperation. It is symbolic that, as I have already said, the so-called international date line passes nearby on the border between Russia and the United States, where you can literally step from yesterday to tomorrow. And I hope that we will achieve the same in the political sphere. I would like to thank Mr. Trump for the joint work and for the friendly and trusting tone of the conversation. The main thing is that both sides were committed to the result. We see that the US president has a clear idea of what he wants to achieve, sincerely cares about the prosperity of his country, and at the same time shows an understanding of the presence of national interests in Russia. We expect that today's agreements will serve as a cornerstone not only for resolving the Ukrainian issue, but also for the beginning of restoring businesslike, pragmatic relations between Russia and the US. In conclusion, I would like to add the following. I remember that in 2022, during my last contacts with the previous administration, I then tried to convince my former American counterpart that there was no need to bring him to a situation after which there could be serious consequences in the form of hostilities. And I said frankly then that this was a big mistake. And today we hear President Trump saying that if he were president, there would be no war. I believe that it really would have happened that way. I confirm this. Because in general, President Trump and I have established a very good business and trusting relationship. And I have every reason to believe that by moving along this path, we can get there, and the sooner the better, until the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe. Thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, whose faces, who I know in many cases, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good, productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.